To be justification for it. If you can put something out there that you think nobody else is saying, or you've got an angle that you think nobody else might be covering, it's a little bit like journalism in that sense. You know, you're trying to, like what Woody did, take the news from here and bring it to there.
So let's talk about that song.
Yeah.
So you said you write the lyrics first always?
Not really. I mean, it's Rudyard Kipling wrote a great poem once in which he said there are 69 ways of composing tribal lays, which lays of songs, and every single one of them is right. There's no one way to write a song. Any method that gets it written is a good method. Sometimes you have a great lyric you're carrying around with you. Sometimes you inadvertently post something in a tweet and think, oh my God, that sounds really good. There's a debate going on at the moment about tax avoidance in my country, and I was writing something on, it might be actually Facebook, on Facebook, thank you, yeah. And I just happened to write, you know, instead of, because people were saying that they were comparing people who avoid their tax with people who illegally take benefits for things they're not worth for. And I'm saying, well, you know, if we've got to choose between the greedy and the needy, help the needy, not the greedy. That's the kind of country I want to live in. And I thought, oh. Yeah. I might have even said it last night. That'll pop. See, that'll come out somewhere. That'll come out somewhere. I saw a placard in a demonstration somewhere that said, "No homes without people, no people without homes." And I'll take that away and I'll sort of rub it around a bit and make it fit into something, because it's such a lovely idea. I think you have to. You know, if you're writing lyrics, you have to have your radar out there. And then another time, I'll be sitting down watching the football, and I'll be, pick up the guitar and strum a few tunes, and think, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's all cool, I like that. And I'll play it, and I'll keep playing. I have no idea, just a nice melody. I have no idea what it's about, no idea what it's going to be. And then I'll sing it into this. And then 6 months later, I'll be driving on my way to the studio, thinking, oh, I need some songs, what's on here? Have a listen there. And something will marry up. So there is no one way. With
this song, the Iceberg song, at what point, if you remember, did the Rise and Fall, the chorus, show up?
The chorus showed up quite early on, because it has its roots in an old song by the Watersons. I can't remember what the name of the song was now. The Watersons are an English folk group. Martin Carthy's a member of them.
Oh, okay.
He married Norma Waterson. And they had a kind of folk song that was a bit more sort of like, I thought it needed to be a bit like a sea shanty, one thing. It needed to be like a sea shanty.
So that gives you the minor key.
That gives you the sort of, the chorus thing. But also that rise and fall thing, the sort of melodic sort of, the way it goes down, it's kind of drifting. Like it's not going harsh, it's just drifting along.
So the subject matter sort of dictated some of the musical
choices. Yeah, it did in a way. I mean, I did spend about 2 days trying to think like an iceberg. I did my research. Yeah, you do. Why not? Because the iceberg is on its own journey as well. The iceberg was on a journey itself, but it's just a much longer journey. It's a much longer time scale. And once I kind of like thought about how they're formed, what they're made of, how they carve. I mean, I don't say I researched. I just looked up on Wikipedia to check about. Consequently, I know the names for icebergs. I don't know if you know this. Icebergs. They have names. There are small ones called growlers. Oh. Growlers. They're called growlers because they're one's about the size of my guitar. Where the fresh water hits the salt water, they fizz, and they make a kind of noise. And then the next one up is called a Bergy bit, and then rather unimaginatively they go small, medium, and large. That's probably too much info.
But we should form a band called the Bergy Bits. I like that.
The Bergy Bits, yeah, that's good.
Really good. Yeah. And with the Woody Guthrie songs, obviously they were lyrics first because you got the lyrics.
Yeah.
So was that different? Was that different for you to try to put melodies on things that were written by someone else, and did that kind of exercise different muscles for you?
Yeah, it did. It did a lot, but it was much more relaxed. It's much more organic. In the writing the lyrics, you're kind of in the forge, hammering ideas into the shape of a sword with which to cut people down, whether it's emotionally or politically. You're taking an idea and you're trying to fashion it into a weapon or an idea. Whereas with the tunes, you can just kind of tunes just kind of fit. You can take one tune and you think you've got a tune here where everybody knows how it goes. But actually, you'd be surprised how easy tunes are to move around. get ready, there's a train a-coming, picking up passengers from coast to coast. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just get on board. You can take all the tea in China, put in a big brown bag for me, sail it right over these 7 oceans and drop it slap into the deep blue sea. 'Cause she's as sweet as Tupelo honey. She's an angel of the first degree. She's as sweet as Tupelo honey, just like honey baby from the bee. If you're traveling in the North Country Fair, where the wind is heavy on the borderline, remember me to one who lives there, 'cause she was once a true love of mine. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. I mean, you can just carry on doing this. Once you've got the 4 chords, you'd be surprised how many of those songs. That was People Get Ready by Curtis Mayfield, Tupelo Honey by Van Morrison, Girl from the North Country by Bob Dylan, Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. I mean, I could have gone on if we had time, but yeah, it's so, you know, it's sort of, tunes are, they're malleable. They're, you know, you can pull them about and mess them around and, you know, quote from other people's songs.
With the Woody Guthrie songs, were you also trying to write melodies as if he were writing them, as opposed to with whatever kind of chord changes you would think are more characteristic toward your songs?
No. First and foremost, our remit was to challenge people's perceptions of Woody Guthrie. So the idea of making a record that sounded like Woody Guthrie was never on the cards. In fact, one of the earliest songs that I got out there was a song about the Peekskill incident, where Paul Robeson did a gig at a golf course in upstate New York, which was attacked by thousands of Klansmen, and the audience were attacked, and Pete Seeger's car was stoned, and Woody wrote a song about it. He wasn't there, but he wrote a song about it, and it was possible to, by reading the lyrics, it was clear that the tune for it was the tune Jesse James. Are you familiar with that song? Yeah. Jesse James, yeah. And it was clear Paul Robeson was the man who fought the Ku Klux Klan. Yeah, so I knew exactly what it was. And I was really proud of this. And I played it to Nora with the first few songs that we had, actually sang it to her. And she was like, yeah, we've got a lot of those. I've seen this song about Ingrid Bergman. I was like, yeah, okay. So I got a strong steer on what songs. And with regard to the tunes, one of the things that was, I think in all the back of all our minds making a record was the idea of the basement tapes. Not so much the songs that the band and Dylan wrote together, but the fact that a lot of the basement tapes are old-timey songs that they're playing in a kind of, they're not playing them in an old-timey way, they're kind of playing them in a more, not a contemporary style, but it's clear that they're cognizant of all the music that's happened since these songs were written. And I think that was our, although we never stated this implicitly, there was a feeling that any music that had been made since Woody wrote the songs, we could play in that style. Because our job was trying to bring him into the 21st century, you know. And anyone who was going to be angry about that we should be bringing, you know, not playing the way Woody did it. Fortunately, we found a little get out clause in the lyric. In one of the songbooks Woody Guthrie wrote with the lyrics, he wrote the tempos for his own, you know, only on one of his notebooks, not on all the manuscripts, but on one particular notebook, he wrote tempos. And one song, he wrote this tempo for a song called My Flying Saucer. And he wrote the tempo that he wrote in the top left-hand corner was Supersonic Boogie. And when I read that, I knew we had our, I said to Jeff, look, Jeff, if anyone gives us any stick about what we've done, would he look in his own handwriting, Supersonic Boogie? You know, don't let's, you know. Because, see, the thing, everyone thinks of Woody being in the Dust Bowl. And he was living in the Dust Bowl up until 1940, but after 1940, he was actually living in Brooklyn, yeah. He was living in Brooklyn. So, you know, a huge part of his life was in New York City. And yes, do think of Woody, as most people think of him, the mental image you get is the Grapes of Wrath, you know, the Steinbeck, the movie, the Steinbeck. But also, you must also think of another movie, made in 1948, set in New York City, in Technicolor, on the town. With the sailors, Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly and the other bloke no one can remember.
Julius Munchin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Someone usually at that point usually shouts, Google it. I appreciate that. And that movie actually ends in Coney Island. The sailors who are chasing 3 women in New York, they end up going to the fun fair in Coney Island. And if you look closely on the film, when they're on the train going out to Stillwell Avenue, there's a little fuzzy-haired guy with an acoustic guitar and a Billy Bragg t-shirt on. That's the little guy. He's there. So you've got to think of him. You've got to think of him in that context as well. And I suppose, having mentioned it, I should try and see if I can remember how to play My Flying Saucer now, shouldn't I? So you can hear some of our Supersonic Boogie.